welcome to the F1 Wheel Nuts podcast. We are the first U.S.-based podcast discussing Formula One for U.S. and particularly Caribbean-based audience as well, because we're all background from the Caribbean. We're going to be reviewing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and who would think 4 races in, Mercedes would finally get their first race win, all down to luck. Very eventful race. And, a lot of people will say, what happened to Mercedes? But, they put the strategy together to make this happen. And one of the main reasons was they had 2 horses in the race. We'll discuss it later, but they used that so much against Ferrari on this track. Guys, getting into the race, one of the things we saw during practice, especially in the pre-race, we saw the windy conditions. I felt like that would play a huge role into it, and I mean, it didn't seem like it materialized at any point, did it?
Well, you could say that it did and it didn't, but a lot of the drivers all weekend were having downforce issues, driving off the track or overdriving the track. I think that could be contributed to the wind affecting their downforce, but
Yeah, after qualifying, Hamilton even mentioned that you were getting crosswinds between the buildings, and I think being in New York City, you experience that just walking through the city. So imagine driving at 100, 200 kilometers per hour, and you get hit with a crosswind. That would be crazy. Thank you, Nick, for representing.
Yeah, I think Vettel touched on it too, because when he did his second qualifying lap, I think he had complained a little bit about the windy conditions too. So, how it played out in the race was totally different.
How do you guys think that contributed at all to the lap 1 carnage? I mean, you saw guys running into each other, guys hitting from each other from the back. Of course, the big one was Ocon and Raikkonen. How do you think that any part of that had to do with what happened there?
I think that's just the nature of Baku.
Yeah, I think they're just everybody trying to get aggressive on the start.
And not enough room.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's that left-hander, quick left-hander, and then another slower left-hander. And I think last year we saw some damage there. This year, Raikkonen and Ocon getting into each other. But I don't think wind would contribute to that because they're not running with that high momentum at that point, and they're surrounded by other cars. So
it seems like Raikkonen is well known for lap 1 incidents at Azerbaijan. Last year, him and Bottas got into it. This year, it was him and Ocon. That incident with him and Ocon, who do you think is to blame for that one?
I think Ocon left him no room. Honestly, I would put more of the blame on Ocon, but because he squeezed him and he had no room, so I would put most of the blame on Ocon.
I would agree, and not because I'm just a Ferrari fan, but I'm saying that you look at Max and Ricciardo, which you can touch on obviously, but when they raced each other and they got into the turns and they were side by side, they left room. I mean, they touched and so on, but they left room for each other to go through the corners, right? I think that's what Ocon needed to do, is leave enough room, let the race continue, race him, but give enough room so you're not putting yourself out of the race. I mean, now he's gone and he's off completely out of points for this race. So.
I mean, following on from that, then there's a long safety car period. Then you had that Vettel restart. Vettel left it probably the last possible moment, got on the gas, and then just put in some very fast laps. Was that? I know a lot of us were critical of Vettel during his Red Bull era because we didn't like to see him win so much. Now, not so much. But is that Vettel of the past that we're seeing again?
I think that restart was well executed, but you can tell that it was well studied too. Starting from pole, he obviously knew that he needed to be able to do a proper restart if there is the case. I mean, we're running in Baku. There's always a safety car, so he knew he would have to do a
guaranteed
restart.
safety, right? Yeah.
So he studied that one very well.
I think the other thing that culminated after that was the Renault Red Bull battle. That was really exciting to watch, especially from my end. I feel like Carlos Sainz still has a chip on his shoulder, and Max Verstappen got that Red Bull seat, and he didn't. And so, do you guys think is that Carlos Sainz saying, "Okay, I'm going to show you who's the man right now"?
Well, well, yes. I'm happy to see that the Renault had some power to go after Max. But like you said, Chris, I think it is a little bit about that chip on his shoulder. He's saying, you know what, maybe I should have had that seat at Red Bull.
Yeah, they're both running the same power units, right? Well, what I like to see is I am a big fan of Hulkenberg. I like Sainz as well. And I like the fact that they weren't afraid to bring the competition to Red Bull, which is what, second or third fastest car on the grid right now, arguably. So I like seeing that they weren't afraid to bring the competition, and they executed well. Both Renault drivers executed well. Sainz got his points across, definitely.
And then I mean Hulkenberg had that heart-wrenching incident where I mean. We all had him on our fantasy teams for as far as I know, and
believe it or not, I dropped him.
Yeah,
I dropped him right before quali. I watched P3, and then I said, you know what, I'm going with Force India, and I switched.
Yeah, I mean, but the Renault guys were just on it. I was especially impressed with Sainz. I mean, he was racing Max Verstappen. He was like, I'm not having any of this.
Yeah.
And we were all waiting for the incident. It's gonna come later, but then I think one of the other things that I took away. I mean, Kimi pitted. He had on softs at that point in time.
Yeah. He's
running down in P10, and then he's got Leclerc and Stroll. They were in front of him for quite a few laps.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was struggling.
I think he said he had complained that he wasn't getting the tires up to temperature, right?
That's what he said.
That's what he. I think that's what he said.
My concern with that is that you have your teammate in arguably again the fastest car on the track, putting in. Vettel was putting in fastest laps back to back, right, or trading fastest laps with Hamilton, and here's Kimi stuck behind a Sauber and a Williams, two of so far this year the slowest cars.
Right.
So, I understand tire temperatures and whatnot, but it's still not, to me, enough of an excuse to not pass those cars.
I think one of the big takeaways from that, I didn't want to take anything away from what Stroll and Leclerc were doing. I mean, Leclerc obviously drove a beautiful race. I think he showed us why he was so good in GP2. He finished P6, which was absolutely. I mean, for that Sauber coming in at P6, I don't care, what the conditions of the race were. It was still really, really good result for that team.
Correct. Yeah, Leclerc won at that track before. Right? He won
last year in GP2.
Yeah.
Had a great race, and he won it in GP2. Yes.
Yeah, he definitely demonstrated his value, but still, there's a lot that happened in that race.
Yeah, he would have been a P9 if
two heavy hitters.
Right.
Three.
Were out.
Three.
Yeah, 3 heavy hitters were out for him to achieve that position.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from him. He
did a great drive.
Great race.
Yeah.
But technically that's P9 if you add those 3 heavy hitters.
Yeah, I still think Kimi should have been able to pass Stroll. I just want big shout out to Stroll as well. I mean, he did an amazing job. He obviously finished on a podium in that race last year, but the car that he has now is probably maybe a second and a half slower than the one he had last year. So obviously he had to do an amazing drive. I think at the start of his career, a lot of people labeled him a pay driver, and he's clearly showing his worth right now. Hopefully he can put it together and keep on putting consistent results. Obviously with that Williams, it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
As that race went on, we saw Lewis Hamilton get in. He's trying to get to Vettel. Vettel opened up this 3-second gaps, probably within 2 laps. Obviously, he's trying not to be able to let. Vettel's not trying to let Hamilton get into DRS zone.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're seeing Hamilton going off a lot in this race. He made maybe 2 or 3 mistakes trying to push up to Vettel. Is it down to tires? Is it wind condition? Is it Lewis Hamilton not being able to cope with his car, or is it?
I wouldn't say he can't cope with the car. I think he was overdriving a bit, just to make up some time. But at the same time, Mercedes this whole season is having a really big problem keeping the tires at temperature. Even when they go into a pit, get new fresh tires, it takes them a lap or two to put temperature back into the tires. I mean,
I kind of think he's still struggling with the car. For some reason, I don't think he is like he was last year. I don't want to say he's out of form. I don't know what's the right word to use, but I still think he's struggling with the car. In quali, I think he could have done better. And same thing for the race. I think he made a few mistakes on the race. I still think he's struggling with the car.
I want to agree. I agree to some extent with both of you. I think he is struggling with the car, but it's as a result of the fact that the car is not running the way he wants it to run because of the tire temperatures. He's not able to get the grip that he needs.
Yeah.
So I think it's affecting his style of driving, his form in general, but the Mercedes need to get him that setup that he wants, that sweet spot that he wants in the car, I believe.
Yeah, and then obviously in this race he obviously outperformed Bottas. Had it not been for towards the end with strategy and stuff, you would have seen Hamilton beating Bottas. But is that an indication that Valtteri Bottas maybe could potentially be getting, when the car isn't perfect, is he getting a little bit more out of it than Lewis Hamilton does?
probably. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see as the season plays out on how that'll work out with all of that.
It could be that this win actually is the kick in the butt that Lewis needs to get his confidence back.
Well, I did call that in our last podcast. If you watched, what I said is that Lewis Hamilton will go to LA. He's going to see Roscoe and Coco, and then he's going to come back and win.
He didn't say he came back with the fresh haircut, though.
Well,
The braid. Yeah, the one braid.
I mean, but that's exactly what he did. It seemed like he took a break. He went to LA, like I called. I don't know if you saw Roscoe and Coco, but
He went to Coachella. Yep.
what do you do at Coachella?
You hang out, have a good time. It's a lot of music.
Nothing else. I'm not implying anything. As that race went on, we saw Raikkonen getting into the Red Bull pit window, and I was telling myself, okay, Raikkonen's just legitimately taking this podium position back now, because he might have been in with a shout for that last podium position, but because you had Bottas didn't pit, Vettel didn't pit, obviously. And the Red Bulls didn't pick. So I said Raikkonen push up, but then suddenly he drops back maybe 20 seconds behind the Red Bulls. Is that the performance that Ferrari needs at this point in time?
Yeah, I actually had Raikkonen for a better result this weekend, and I was hoping to see a better result. I mean, obviously he did get a good result in the end, right? But Raikkonen is not executing to me as the same level as Vettel. He's not executing to the level of Hamilton, and at that point of his career, he needs to execute better because he has a 1-year contract, year to year. So
Year to year, yeah.
if he's not executing now, then he might not have a drive. I don't want to see Raikkonen go. I think Raikkonen is serving a good purpose right there in his position, but he needs to be able to bring home points for the team, and that's what he's not doing.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've looked at, I mean, the Ferrari's obviously a fast car. One of the things I've looked at all year is he taking away points from Mercedes, and in no case did I see him really taking points away from Mercedes. It's always them having some incident or some sort where they're taking points away from
You can't
themselves.
just blame Raikkonen, though. I mean, it's the way Ferrari treats him.
No,
All right,
you know what it is? You know what it is?
I want to, before we go further, I just want to talk about this a little bit. A lot of people said Ferrari treated Vettel poorly, Raikkonen poorly in China. Now, in the positions they were running, if you can remember, I'm going to take a quick second and go back. Ferrari would have, if that strategy had worked out, Raikkonen would have finished 6th, Vettel would have finished 1st.
Correct.
All things aside. That would have led to 33 points for the constructor. If they didn't play that out, Raikkonen would have maybe finished 5th and Vettel 2nd, which would have left at 30 points for the constructor. So Ferrari did what Ferrari did for the team. I mean, they obviously executed for based on the team result. So they're racing for the team. So I think it's hard to argue that they're just treating him to make Vettel win. That's what my opinion is.
But it seems to be like every race. Like since the last season, it seems to be like race after race. Somehow, Vettel always comes out on top. Like Raikkonen is quick in practice. He's quick in quali. Q1, Q2 comes around Q3. Vettel.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Begs to ask the question. I don't know.
No, I'm
Is
it's
it
a good
is
question
it
to
that
ask, but
Vettel is just a better driver that he gets that extra oomph out of the car? Is that the right? I don't know.
I don't know personally too, but judging from instead of bringing in a conspiracy,
I am not bringing in conspiracy. I'm
if you
asking the
just
question.
judge from the facts, then that's exactly what he's doing. He's being able to deliver the result when it's absolutely necessary, right? Raikkonen is not. So I'm not sure that there is something to explain there, other than what we're seeing on the screens.
Okay, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, good point. So as that race went on, we saw Hamilton pit first, which we kind of expected, and then obviously he was way behind Vettel. I think he was like maybe 29, 30 seconds behind. And I know I am as a Ferrari fan. I'm thinking, okay, please pit him now, please pit him now, please pit him now, please don't mess up the strategy.
Listen, Vettel's tires were good, so why? I think they were banking on a safety car.
That's what I think they try to cover.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll get to that later, but obviously, it seemed like Ferrari they had, back to the Raikkonen thing, they had one horse in the race where Mercedes had two horses, and they could play with them a little bit, and that's what Ferrari didn't have in this case, and maybe that's what they really need to be doing in order so that either driver can execute fully. They need to have both horses in that race. Obviously, the big thing that happened next was the Verstappen Ricciardo battle and the Max again, as I wrote on my paper here.
Here comes Max.
I mean, for the most part, I don't know how you guys feel. Were you looking at the battle thinking, all right, when is it going to happen?
Yeah, the whole time. The whole time. Yep. The whole time.
The whole time. I expected it to happen with Sainz, right? Because Max needed to prove his point.
Yeah.
With the Sainz. But then I was like, all right, so it didn't happen then. Now we're waiting for it again. So.
And it's interesting though, but like clearly Ricciardo's giving him a lot of room to race, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's been I was looking at it, there's corners Ricciardo backed out completely to let Max go because he's very mindful he's racing his teammate.
Yep. Max isn't mindful.
Then then they're coming out of turn one, and then you see Max coming out of turn one, has his steering wheel full lock, opens it up a little bit, touches Ricciardo, and then they're going again.
Their wheels hit, and then I said, "Oh, there it is," and then that wasn't it.
I think they came together twice before the main event, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The main event.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's when Michael Buffer would come out.
But I gotta say, leading up to that, it was very exciting watching them race because you don't see teammates race each other a lot in Formula One.
Well, Force India.
Yeah. They always end the same way though.
Yeah.
So you don't see teammates race each other. So it was good to see them race each other. Ricciardo obviously was planning all of his moves from laps ahead. You can see every time he would set up himself, it's a lap.
Just watching today's events, you can see that Ricciardo is a skilled driver as opposed to Max.
Yeah. Max is quick.
He's fast, but he's not skilled. Ricciardo is both fast and skilled, and therefore plans his moves and tries to execute them. When he planned his overtake, the final one that before the incident,
the main event,
you could see that he had planned to go right, then left.
Monza 2014 on Vettel.
He did a couple people.
He used that move a few times before, but I think Max saw it coming and tried to block and actually blocked twice. I blame Max completely. The FIA said that Ricciardo didn't brake in time. You're doing 200 and God knows how.
He's also a late breaker. He always jumps.
He's known for late braking. So
if you put a car there, you can't really brake if you put a car in the braking zone. So
but then you also have no downforce too.
So my thing with that is, we go back to when Raikkonen and him had a battle, and I think Lewis and him had a battle, Rosberg and him had a battle.
Everybody and him had a battle.
Under braking. Now, the Formula One still hasn't done anything about that. But
I think today they might.
If you're going to block, the first move is defending your position, right? And it's okay to defend your position, but the second move, that's blocking. How is that a sportsmanlike? Your own teammate, first of all, right? Your own teammate. You're jeopardizing both cars, a race result for the team, but you're also jeopardizing your result in the end, just your specific result. You're going to put the car there where it's.
I found it interesting though that every radio transmission that we heard to Max,
keep it clean.
Keep it clean. Just remember, keep it clean. At the end of every transmission, his engineer told him, keep it clean.
Back up. Sorry.
Do you think they should have maybe split them up from it?
Oh, I bet you they will now.
That was my next point. Back that up a little bit. If you are Red Bull in that point, obviously you can't tell one to let the other pass. Do you say, guys, hold position?
I think they're gonna
split them up with tire.
They're gonna implement team orders of some sort. I mean, you should see Christian Horner walking.
He was
up
upset today.
He was really upset. He was walking towards the their meeting space, and I forgot which announcer went up to him and talked to him. Normally, he's open to talk to anyone.
Right.
He was like, I have no comment till I talk to the drivers. They asked him another question. He totally ignored the camera and kept going.
That's straight up.
So,
I mean, obviously they had them banging wheels. There was a lot of time. They were together racing each other the entire race. There was a lot of time for the team to say, guys, settle down.
You could blame this on management too. Yeah.
Well, so we always talk about Ferrari, giving Ferrari flack about moving the drivers around, tossing them around, right? Do you think Ferrari would have let both drivers go at each other, banging wheels and fighting for position on track? Or would Ferrari have gotten on the radio and said, somebody back off, or tell specifically one driver to back up? Especially if you're the slower of the two drivers, back off and let your teammate go.
Yeah, I see Ferrari do that.
Ferrari would have done that.
Yeah, Ferrari would have done that.
A lot of times.
Yeah, they would tell Kimi back off, even if he's in the lead.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for supporting the Kimi's point.
They let the quicker driver go. Thank you.
Well, we do remember Fernando is faster than you are. Do you understand?
And Massa couldn't produce results afterwards.
Well, listen, it's a team sport. I think you got to do what's best for the team. You're racing for the team. How much you blame it on Red Bull not acting? They obviously have a policy. They let their drivers race. We've seen a lot of coming together, Rosberg and Hamilton over the years. It's just something that a team has to look at. Us as fans, I love seeing it.
Oh, I love it.
I love it.
That reminded me of Turkey with Sebastian and Mark.
Yeah.
When they came together, the first Red Bull coming together. That was beautiful. And you saw two bulls flying. They talk about gives you wings and all that stuff. Well, we see bulls flying. That was awesome.
We saw them today.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I think it was Ricardo's car that went in the air, right?
Yeah.
No, it was Max.
Got popped up in
It was Max's car that the back went up. Yeah.
The other thing we saw was Grosjean crashing under the safety car,
my God.
and then blaming a car that's maybe 5 car lengths before him.
He said Ericsson hit me.
He took the air off his wing.
My thing with Grosjean is in qualifying, I felt really bad for him because you practice all this time. He wants a result. It's 4 races into the year, and you want a result, right? You're fighting your heart out for this result. Then you see his car die on him. He goes in the corner. Did you see him?
He's crying.
He's crying, literally in tears. Now you've got this opportunity. The FIA did a waiver, put him in a race because he never qualified for the race, right? So they put him in a race. He started last. He gained like 12 positions or something to that number.
Right.
He's running in a good form, and then wall.
Hits the wall.
What is your excuse now, Grosjean?
Well, he said Ericsson. I had to stop and think.
It wasn't even Ericsson behind it. It was Leclerc too.
But I saw the replay first, and then I said, "Well, wow, he did that himself." And then he said, "Ericsson hit me," and I said, "Wait a second, I didn't see any."
No, nobody hit him.
But
I guess he was just sleeping.
Or the tires were just cold.
Stuffed the car into the wall, and Gone is a good result for Haas. Gone is a good result.
I think
for
that's,
Gone.
that incident also screwed up some good racing for us as
Yeah.
fans.
Yeah.
At that point, knowing how long it would take to clean the track up and everything, should the FIA had red flagged the race?
They should have.
They should have.
I don't agree with that. The only reason I don't agree with that, and I'm not a big NASCAR fan, so I don't want to see a last lap shootout or anything like that, but I think as soon as you red flag a race, you rob the fans of anything that was left on the table.
Yeah, that's true.
So as a fan, as a Formula One fan, regardless of Ferrari or whoever, whatever the result would have been, and the result didn't come out in our favor still, but
It's our favor. You mean?
Ferrari.
Oh.
Race your cup.
Glad Mercedes
Raise your
won.
cup. Yeah. So Ferrari, the fact that they didn't get the result, I still like the fact that the FIA let the race carry on. I mean, four laps in, there was still some good racing in there. There was still some excitement.
It would have been a great battle because all the top 3 drivers. I don't know if Kimi had ultras on, but the top 3 did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kimi did.
Did he have
Yeah,
ultras on?
Yeah, they all pitted.
They all
Oh, so it would have been a great
Yeah.
finish.
Now on that restart, obviously Vettel, he was definitely caught napping a little bit by Bottas.
Yeah, Bottas pulled a fast one on him.
Vettel obviously preempted going for that move on that turn one. Do you guys think that?
He
Yeah.
might have planned that out, and even though he didn't have the right track position to execute the move,
Yeah, he
still
tried
went
going
for
from
it.
third to first. Lewis cleared out of the way. He's like, you know what? If he wants to go ahead, go ahead, take out Bottas. But I don't, I think Vettel reacted too quickly. He had laps to go to make that move. The tires were still cold.
Yeah.
They just restarted.
He
Give
had
it a
at
lap
least two
before
more-
you do that.
Yeah, he had at least 2 more chances of
Yeah.
making that work. However, he did have Hamilton breathing down his neck as well, so he needed to do something.
Yeah.
So if he could put a Mercedes,
No, wasn't he in third?
No, he was second.
No,
If
he was in
if
second.
If he could
Oh,
put
you're
a
right,
Mercedes
you're right,
between
you're right, I'm
him and
sorry.
Hamilton, it would have been better for him than to put it there quickly. So I'm okay with the move. It didn't work, but at least he made a move. I mean, you remember Bottas in Bahrain, right?
Correct.
He just stuck the nose down, looked at it, and then backed out, right?
Yeah.
So I like the fact that he made a move. It didn't work, and
No, you're not a
Fight
racer.
another
You're
day.
no longer a racer if you don't go for the gaps, right?
Yeah.
That's true. Senna, you have to go for the gaps. And in my opinion, I love the fact that he put it in there. I love Vettel for the fact that I always think he's a hard-nosed racer. You saw it in Baku last year. I don't want him running into people, but obviously he's a guy, he's there to race because he loves racing. And, sometimes he's going to be disappointed. Sometimes he's going to say things like in Mexico 2016. But that's what you want to see. You want to see someone that just puts it all out there. And then we had the Bottas puncture.
Oh.
What do you even say about
I
that?
was really happy for Bottas. I really
Yeah,
wanted to
I
pick him
was.
up.
Well, I was disappointed. I felt heartbroken for him
Yeah.
when that tire went up in shreds. Looking back at the replay, though, I think he ran over something from
Yeah,
what I saw.
it was Debra in the track.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think that was a really good opportunity for Bottas to take some points away from Hamilton, and he didn't execute for us as a Ferrari.
Clearly, Bottas, there's pictures of him after just sitting by the barrier, hands, just like this, with his helmet still on.
And
I really feel for
I
the
want to
guy.
say that was the reason why Lewis was late to the podium celebration. It's because he was down there checking on Bottas. I saw Checo came out, then Kimi, and then they're waiting like a good minute for Hamilton to show up.
Or he could have been fixing his hair.
No, it's set already.
Really, Mark?
That's the whole thing about
That's
doing
the
a
new
braid,
hairstyle?
so you don't have to touch it.
I don't know.
Lady Luck clearly played a role. A massive role
Lady
in Lewis
Luck,
Hamilton's victory.
Return the favor back to Mercedes.
Yeah.
It happened in the first race,
Yeah.
so we're even.
I think what Mercedes did, though, going back to a point that we made earlier, is that they had 2 horses in the race. They could run one deep, stop one early and say you choose which one you want to cover.
Yeah.
I think Ferrari had it covered. On normal racing conditions, Ferrari would have covered both cars, I think, because if the strategy played out, Vettel had enough pace to cover both cars. When Hamilton pitted, he wasn't turning laps for a good 5-6 laps. He wasn't turning competitive.
He was complaining about
Right,
tire
he was
temperature.
complaining about tires.
So that fact, if he had come out and he was quick right off the bat, then Ferrari would have needed to cover, but they didn't need to cover. So had they kept Ferrari out, Vettel out, and on normal racing conditions, without the safety cars, without the two Red Bulls deciding to drive one car, it would have been a really good result for Ferrari.
Yeah, obviously. And then Perez sneaking in there with the podium again always seems to make it work, right? I mean, this starting off the season, I think they couldn't get out of Q3 at one point, and now he's on podium with the same car. How is it possible at this point that he's pulling
Back
these
to what
results?
Mark and I were saying earlier. Three big guns are out of the top of the race. It did help everyone else move up a bit, but still, I'm not taking it away from Perez. He worked hard. He passed Ferrari.
What Ferrari should he
passed Vettel.
What Vettel should have done though is he should have thought more like Hamilton and executed. You know how Hamilton calls ahead and say, use this car to slow the other one down and so I can pass him. That's what Hamilton Vettel should have done. Don't you think?
Really, Mark?
Kimi was nowhere in the race to do that.
Kimi was running in second.
Yeah, but
He could have slowed down Perez. You guys don't.
I love it.
I'm not even gonna entertain it.
I mean, other big, I would say big finishing positions there. Obviously, you have Leclerc putting in a performance that. Do you think at this point he's on Ferrari's radar?
No,
Not
yet. They're waiting for Daniel to shut them down.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Leclerc
He's not ready.
I think he needs at least another year or two, more than this year, and then he'll be ready for Ferrari. See, Ferrari's never notoriously promoted drivers up into their seats until there's quite a few years of experience under them. So
I mean, and then you have Lance Stroll, obviously, finishing with the Williams at that position, where everyone clearly they didn't know whether or not the Williams even had the potential to finish last place, but he pulled that out. Fernando drove on two wheels at one point during that race, finished 7th. So
points,
great.
Oh, wait, both McLaren scored points. Ricky reminded us right after the race. That was the first text we got.
Oh boy. So, I mean, all in all, I think it was a great race. Baku obviously has the potential to put up great races. I don't know if you guys watch GP2 races, but there were great GP2 races at this weekend there too. So
I have
really
family
good.
commitments. Sorry, I barely have time to do this.
I was up at 5 a.m. watching GP2 races.
It's because you don't have
Commitment.
my worry with the Baku race is that sometimes they get so mixed up, so bad that you kind of lose track of the actual racing, and you're just worried about all these other crazy things that's happening on the track. But overall, I agree. I think the race was really good.
I enjoyed it.
Exciting pieces into it. There were some disappointments from it too, but it's racing, right? You get those things with it.
All right. I think great race. I don't think there's much else to say. From front to back, start to end.
Yeah.
Good racing.
Yeah, I'd
really
love to
enjoyed it.
hear from some of our friends and fans on this.
Yeah.
Maybe next podcast we can have a phone call with some of them, the guys in Canada, even Guyana, wherever they want to call in from. So
yeah, with that, obviously, if you like our show, like us on social media, comment, subscribe, reach out to us, send us a message. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Send us an email. We'd love to reach out, talk to other Formula One fans.
No, I didn't have much else.
Okay.
Yeah, not much else for me to say.
Yeah, so hit the thumbs up button right below on the YouTube channel. Leave us some feedback if you have anything to tell us.
You know what? Actually, they could actually join our fantasy league.
Yes.
F1 put out Formula One, Liberty put out a Formula One fantasy league, first time, and we're all a part of it. We have our own private league. If you'd like to join us.
The league code is FDC F2A. We'll put it up below if you missed it. But yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. We participated this time, and
We made like 10 team changes before qualifying each. But you know what? I think I'm in the lead. But
I think all my people are out.
we'll have to check the point system and see how that worked out.
yeah, maybe we can talk about it during the week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
before the next race.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.